So this is the Sweat Basics tutorial. I don't even know. But I mean, I guess we're gonna be going over this list I have right here. Could be plugins, keyboard settings, reactor settings, timeline settings, syncing and marking, flow frames, time stretch, adjustment clip setup, shakes, Pancrop, glows, blurs, framers, depth map, light compositing, CC, render 1, SFX, and then render 2. So for render 2, it's just going to be how to like upscale within Davinci. I normally don't upscale within Davinci anyway. Normally I upscale. Well, actually, no. I do normally upscale with Davinci, but I suggest doing it with like Topaz or something. But really, I mean, that's whatever you guys decide. Oh, and then I also meant to say that we're going to be going over this as well. So, to start off, you're probably going to have settings like this, if we're being honest. But we're going to start with the keyboard customization. Important ones are split clip, which I have as H. Another important one is undo action, which is going to be Control Z. I think there's a redo action, yeah, Control Shift C. I also think that C is, compound clipping is important. New compound clip as C. I'm not going to go over that in this video, the compound clipping, but I do believe it's important personally. I also think that open in timeline and open in fusion page, these ones specifically, not the clip one, but edit timeline. Open in fusion page I have as F, and open in timeline I have as T. I believe they're both important, especially for this one if you're using compound clips. I don't think it's going to show up. I don't think add marker is going to show up, but M normally works for that. I don't believe there's anything else, but if there is, then I will go over it when I'm doing the action. But the next most important thing I think is to do the timeline view options. Turn down your video and audio tracks all the way and extend the audio track you have for your song, which we'll be importing here soon, but this is just what I have. Display stack timelines, I always have this enabled, makes the workflow a lot easier. Turn on display full waveform, and then you can turn on display non-rectified waveform, but I do leave it on because I prefer it to look like this. Then you can choose your thumbnail, viewer background, and all that. I suggest leaving this on black, but you can go for checkerboard all you want. But like I said, I just leave it on black. The rest is your choice, so just go for it. And then really quickly, I'm going to show you guys what we're going to be doing today. Honest, we got so familiar. So to warn you guys, some of these shakes do look a little bit weird. It kind of has to do with this composition right here, the reason they look weird. But yeah, and then also the syncing is going to be very slow, or the pacing is going to be kind of slow because of the song, but this is the type of songs I like to edit, so I guess just deal with it. But to start our first timeline, what we're going to do is we're going to click, right-click, timeline, new timeline, name it whatever you want. I'm just going to name this tutorial. Unclick project, use project settings, and go to format. Make sure you're editing in either 16, 18, 24, or 30, or anything in between 16 and 30. Of course, it's your choice, but anything over 30 I just think looks weird. So we'll be doing 24 as the most used one just for this tutorial. Make sure you have these settings on. If you want to edit in 3840 by 2160 Ultra HD, go for it. But I personally wait till after because it doesn't like take as long to render. Okay, so this is me from the future. I missed a couple things. One, how to get plugins. So I'll have like a whole bunch of stuff in the description, but I have like a Google Drive of like stuff I've gotten, as well as let's see, I have a plugins document that I got from somebody else. I'm not affiliated with this. Legally, I'm not affiliated with this. I honestly have nothing to do with this. I'm like just kind of here. But yeah. Then also, I'm going to show you guys how to download Reactor. So you're going to go into Fusion, and you're going to go to Stake Underwater. You're going to go to Reactor, Stake Underwater. I didn't do it, whatever. Stake Underwater Reactor. You're just going to go here, click Reactor. It's like the easiest thing to ever get. And you're going to download it. Quick install. Download the Reactor installer. So you're just going to do that. And then once you have the file, it's going to be really easy. I don't know if I have it like in my downloads. I don't. But what you're going to do is you're going to click it, hold it, drag it into this grid. It'll automatically start downloading. Then once it's done, you might need to restart Davinci. But if you don't, go to Scripts, Reactor, open Reactor. It's going to take a second, so just wait real quick. But then once it opens, these are all the ones I have installed. You're going to go to all. You can just search any of it, like HOS macro to group, I know is one I have right here. But I suggest getting defocus gamma, you're going to need. HOS macro to group, you're going to need. Well, you don't need it, but I really suggest getting it. Resolve Essentials, you're going to need, basically. I mean, at this point, like, you should get it. And then Xglow as well. But the rest of it's not necessary whatsoever. So once you get that, go back to Workspace. Go to Scripts, Resolve Essentials. It should be there. If not, restart Davinci again. Go to Fusion Hotkey Manager. And the ones I have are right here. But to make one, what you're going to do is you're going to click New and enter key sequence. So you're going to pick any key on your keyboard. Let's go with J, just as example. It's going to say Shift key. Just click it again. So you're going to click whatever button it is that you want to use twice. Don't click it, then click this again, or else it'll just go back to the Shift key. Just double click. But then you can just find whatever it is that you want, like view mode or playback, I guess. Like there's this, I'm gonna try and find some of the ones that I use for you guys. Like I use optical flow in here, time stretcher in here as well. I have optical flow set to O, I have time stretcher set to R, transform set to T. Oh, this is the one I already have. You're just gonna have to find it, I'm gonna be honest. Because I have no clue where it's at. It's probably in here. Like merge I have as M. I'm trying to find where all the ones are. But it doesn't really matter, I guess. Just find it and then click OK when it's done. And then, yeah, that's what I suggest is because then you can just like click one button on your keyboard and have 20 transforms or whatever it is that you need. And then the other thing that I forgot to go over is what you're gonna need. You're gonna need Sapphire for this, and you're gonna need Reactor as well for this tutorial. But yeah, everything else I think I already covered. But yeah, you guys have a great day. God bless. But just create that new timeline, and we're gonna start by importing our song. So double click this right here, whatever song it is. find the part of the song you want and go to it. You're going to hit I on your keyboard for in, and then you're going to go to the end of whatever you want. And then you're gonna hit O on your keyboard, and that's going to be your out point. If you want to remove the in or out point, hit Alt I for removing the in, and Alt O to remove the out. I'm going to leave it because I already know where I want it. Then just drag it in. I suggest dragging into audio 5. That way, whenever I have a clip, it has 3 audios for some reason. So I do it just as a precaution when I'm dragging it in. But you can just hold Alt and drag in the clip, and it won't bring in any of the background noise. Anyways, we're gonna mark our clips now. So go to the first beat, and you can tell by the peak points, like the most impactful parts of the sound. Now, I either go directly on the beat or 1 frame before, depending on if I can get it on the beat. 60 FPS or 120 FPS is going to allow you to get on the beat closer. Like, there won't be that in-between frame, like the 0.5 frame, where it's making that noise, but you can't get it directly on. That's what I'm talking about, doing it before. You'd rather be early, like 1 frame early than 1 frame late. Like I had it on 5 just to be safe, but we'll do it on 6 for this tutorial. Just mark out your beats, hitting M for a marker, or you can change the color if you want. But I kind of go off like the more peak parts, I guess. I'm gonna start it right here because it's where he starts to speak again. Normally these little like drop spots where it starts to get bigger are like pretty like reliable. So like right here is what I'm talking about. Is if I go right on it, you can't hear the beat if you go right on it. But if you go 1 frame before, you can. This is probably the best spot right here, but I have it on this. I think it's more impactful. But I don't know. That's just your choice, I guess. Then you just find the end where you want to end completely. So I'm just gonna cut it right here. You can change this right here by going over it again and hitting M. You can name it. You can change the time it's at. You can change the duration. Like if I want it to be 5, it's gonna split it like this. But I don't need it to be like that. I'm just gonna make it red so that I know that this is the main kill. This as well is gonna be red. Those are gonna be the 2 main points. But now that we have everything synced up, I'm gonna explain why we sync it up like this. So, the reason I have these 2 points as red is because these points are the most impactful parts of the song. So familiar. So, it's also slower too. You want your kills to be longer than your reloads and pull-out animations for the most part. That's just kind of the rule of thumb because it's going to be the most impactful. But now we're going to, like, right here is going to be shots that don't hit. This is going to be a pull-out right here. So the problem with this pull-out animation right here is you should almost always do 2 parts of the pull-out rather than 1. But because the song is like this, we're doing 1. But we'll try and do our best to make it look good. But yeah, this is what it should turn out to. If it looks like this, if you're using this song, then it should look like this. But we are going to move on to the flow frames. So you're going to create a new timeline. and you're going to unclick Use Project Settings, and you're going to change it to either 60 FPS or 120 FPS. If you record in 120 or higher, then go with 120. But if you're like me and record in 60 FPS, then use 60 FPS for this. Create a new timeline and drag in the parts of the clip that you're going to want. You can double click and do the I and O trick again. So you're just going to include basically everything you want. I already have this done in timeline 2, but I have the pullout as well as the kill. I probably could have skipped a lot of this area where it's not showing, but I didn't for some reason. And then I went from this and cut to here right before I killed the jet. But you're just going to include everything you might want, and you're going to go to render, name it whatever you want. I normally just name it for like Flowframes, and then I put like jet 2K sheriff ion or something like that, and then I'll render it out in like downloads. You can either I go with MP4, I suggest you do as well, and then I use H.264, but H.265 is going to be your GPU rather than your CPU, and just make sure all these settings are the same as your timeline settings. Then you just render your queue, render all, and it should be set. Then to Flowframe, you're going to open up Flowframes. You can get this off of GitHub. I'll have links in description. And then you're going to go to settings. Just copy the settings I have here. I'm just going to pause to get the settings. But I suggest having the same settings as mine. If somebody tells you differently, like a better sensitivity, I mean, go for it. But I found that my settings are good. And then you're going to go back to interpolation. You're going to browse for your video. I'm just going to do this, I guess. And as you can see, I recorded in 60 FPS. I don't know why it says 60.2. In fact, I'm actually going to show you like this, because this is 60 FPS. Then instead of multiplying it by 2, you're going to multiply it by 10, get 600 FPS. Or you can multiply it by 5 and only do 300 FPS. But times 10 only takes about 10 minutes or so. And you just interpolate, and it should be fine. So I already done mine myself. So you're going to find it, double click it, find where you want each clip or whatever. I personally start from the last bit that I'm ready for. Normally I'll end up extending the song and doing more, but for now, we're just going to go with this. I'm just going to go to the end, and I'm going to find right before I shoot, just to be safe, and then I go after, and then hit O. Then I'm just going to hit Alt on my keyboard and drag it in, and then cut it near the end. Then I'm going to go into here by hitting F on my keyboard, because we know that goes into Fusion. We're going to put time stretcher in. We're going to copy this value right here. And then we are going to go to the end. And we're going to find where the sheriff drops almost all the way. So right here. We don't want it to lose movement though, so don't go all the way down. Just go back to the first frame. And you're going to go forward. For this clip specifically, I'm going to match it up with how we're going to do the rest of them, which is right at this part of the shot. I'll explain why later, but for now, just do this. Then you're just going to find the peak of the animation, and this goes for all guns, not just Sheriff. Sheriff has the most noticeable peak, as well as Op. Vandal, not so much, but we're just gonna find that real quick. So I think that it's slightly when it starts to drop. So this value right here should be fine. We're gonna go and do our spline, click source time, full screen it, and then you're gonna hit Control A and F on your keyboard to make these points flat. We're gonna drag over the left point, drag up this point right here. Now, just from personal experience of using this, I'm not putting this up as high because I've noticed that with this clip, it goes pretty quickly at the beginning of the shot. I think that had to do with my clipping software just malfunctioning, but yeah. Anyways, something I used to do that like messed me up a lot was I would try and make this part flat. The problem with that is then these are like practically the same frame. So what you're gonna do is you're just gonna drag these up so that they are diagonal of each other, because you want to still be moving the entire time you're going through the clip. But yeah, it should look like this. We're just gonna go into the front and we're going to and I think that looks good for the most part. Like I said, this part I'm not a huge fan of because my clipping software just kind of skipped a frame, I think. But you're gonna hit flow, clamp edges, previous and next, and then you're gonna hit O on your keyboard. And this is gonna optical flow it. And we're gonna go into the delivery page for this so that we can render it out quicker. So I think this looks okay, I guess. As you can see, there's movement throughout the entire time. Like there's not a spot where it like just stops, which is good. That's what you want. We're gonna skip this part right here because we're gonna be doing this, which is not needed yet. So we're gonna skip to this kill right here. Find it on your Flowframes. I believe I already have it ready. I guess not. But just find the first like part of the shot, I guess, and go a little bit before it. Alt, drag in, and then go to the next keyframe and cut it like so. Go into Fusion once again, and we're just gonna repeat the same step. Now I did realize that I forgot to show you guys the plugins, reactor settings, and whatnot. But if I did my job, then you guys have already seen that, because I'll be editing that in afterwards, because I realized I forgot it. But once again, you're gonna go right a little bit after it starts to drop. In the beginning, we're just gonna go to the same area right here. And then you're gonna go a little bit after the middle once again. We're gonna delete these decimal points, and we're gonna find right after it is like dropping like that. And we're just gonna do the spline real quick and make sure that everything is where we want it. So like this again, bring this down, bring this over, and we'll see it. We'll look at it now. So we can see there's a little bit of ghosting, which is what we don't want. Let's see, yeah, you can see it starts to ghost right there. If we just turn on optical flow, clamp edges, previous, next, and then add optical flow, it should fix a lot of that. But some of that is just Flowframes trying to AI interpolate it. So that looks fine, I think. We're just gonna do the same thing with these as well. But we're just gonna now, I'm gonna show you how to make them flow together now, because there's one mistake a lot of people make, something I made like before, mistake I made before. What we're gonna do is we're gonna come into this clip right here, and this is actually why I work backwards. We're gonna go to the first frame of it. We're gonna copy this value, go into the last clip, paste in your time stretcher, and then go to the very last frame, and then still go over one more frame, and then the last frame. So technically, this frame right here is not part of this clip, but instead part of this clip. It's right where the playhead's at. Now the playhead, if we zoom in, is clearly in between these clips. So this frame right here is actually going to be playing this clip, and the last frame of this clip is going to be right here. Now if we go inside, you can see the last frame is right here. We're still on the last frame. The point of doing it right here is to make sure the very, very end of the clip, the value of it, the calculation of it, is going to match up perfectly with this right here. Because it's going to calculate the frames even after here. And so when we do the spline graph, it's going to match up and flow into the next clip. I try my best to explain that. I hope you guys understand. But I guess you just have to see and like test it on your own. But go to your first frame. You're going to copy this value now that you have the other one pasted in. And we're just going to go backwards until we have the same kind of look. Let's see. I'm trying to make it so that the first frame we see it is not ghosting. This right here should be fine. But we can see that the kill doesn't happen quite yet. So the spline graph is going to look a little bit weird, but for now we're just going to go do our normal when it starts to drop like this. We're going to go into spline, source time, extend it. And you can see this point is a lot lower. That's because this has a lot more time to get through all these values, or less time to get through all those values. We're just going to do the same graph that we did, but we're going to have the end be a little bit more harsh, like more steep, I guess. So we're just going to do this right here. This right here should be fine. Make sure it's still diagonal, so it's moving the entire time. And let's just watch it real quick. I think it looks okay. It is what it is. If you're editing it though, I mean, make it more, like, have more quality, I guess. I'm just doing it for the sake of the tutorial, but I don't think this looks terrible, I guess. Do the same thing, repeat the last step, copy the first value of this clip, go into this clip, and do your time stretcher, go to the yellow marker, paste it, then go to your first marker, just copy this value, even though, well, actually no, just keep this value copied because we're way farther. But then go to the other shot and get rid of this decimal number right here. And then you guys know the drill. Just go through it till you find the peak of this. I normally go when this drops down is normally where I like put it. Then you just drag this over, put it down a little bit, go like this, and make the graph something like this. Make sure it's diagonal as always, and let's just watch real quick. So now I can kind of explain why we did it on this frame. It's because now they can all be very similar to one another. Now that would be bad, except if your clip is gonna be like this, it's gonna not flow together well. It's not, you can tell the difference in the choppiness a lot more. But now that we have that done, make sure you have your optical flow settings on for the time stretchers. And then we're gonna get into the pull out animation. So like I said, it should always, you should always have it as a like a 2 clips. But for this, we're gonna have to just go with 1 clip of this. So you're gonna go, there's a way you can do this. So don't choose this frame. Choose the frame where you can actually like see it decently well, so that it doesn't look like it just cuts to it being there. You can see the start of it. You can see that it's there at the beginning, and you're just pulling it out. Then you're gonna go a little bit after where you want to end, and choose that right there. Alt drag in, H for delete, and then you're going to go inside the clip. You're just gonna do your normal time stretcher, copy paste. Then I think actually I had it as 37 when I was doing it normally, but we're just gonna go with 22 because why not? Go to the end of your clip, and we're not gonna need to do the yellow line because of how far apart this and the next clip are. But you're gonna go, I'm gonna go right here for simpleness, I guess. Delete your decimals per usual. And I, for ion sheriff, like to go right around here where it's like halfway through, but you don't see the lens flare yet. And I'm gonna go source time, Control A, F, go like this, and go like this. Make it smooth, and we're just gonna watch it real quick. Now actually I think this is too sharp, so I'm just gonna drag this over and drag this down. I think that's too linear, so just drag it up. Drag it up until it's quick enough, but not too linear. Make it a little bit faster. I'm not gonna mess with it any longer, but you guys get the gist of it, I guess. But then add your optical flow, previous next clamp edges. Watch it through. Oh, sure to add optical flow. There we go. Now it should work. Go to the delivery page to make it render out quicker. So this is what it should look like. We got so familiar. I don't think that's terrible, but now we're gonna do this like speed thingy. I don't even know what to call it. You're gonna find your original clip because it doesn't really need to be flow framed. Find in between this clip and this clip. I think I already have it set up. Yeah, I already have it set up. But then Alt drag in, as always, H to cut. And there's a couple ways you can do this, and I'm going to show the way that I prefer it. You can do time stretcher and copy this value, paste, and then go to the very end, and then copy this this first frame's value, and then do the yellow line trick, and click nearest. You can do that. Actually, this isn't Flowframes, so it's not going to be on the same value. If it was Flowframed, you could just copy the value, but for this, you have to go manually and do it like this. But if we were to look at it, this would look like familiar. Now the reason I'm not gonna do it like this on this clip is because the sheriff is down for such a long time. It looks so. It looks like a robot. I'm not even kidding. So instead of doing that, you could just do s_random edits, and then normally 2 edit frame lengths are fine. Like it normally works for the most part. Like it's normally fine. And then you just add CC for both of them. For either way you do it, turn down the saturation, turn up the contrast a little bit. Add a zoom blur is what I go with. You can do directional blur, but I go with zoom. A lot of times I'll go with stylized just because I think it looks better because it's stylized. But realistic works as well. I just turn it down a little bit. Doesn't need to be crazy. And we can just watch it real quick. Familiar. And it should be fine. Familiar. I think that looks okay, I guess. But then, I mean, this feels off. I think it should be a frame before. Yeah, it needs to be a frame before, but we're just gonna ignore that. Then, our next step is to do our adjustment clips setup. So drag this in, hold Alt and drag up, select both, Alt and drag up. Then you're gonna hold Alt with all of them selected and drag it to the right until the start of this clip, and do the same for each one. It'll automatically cut the adjustment clip before it. And you can just delete those. You're going to select all of these adjustment clips. Well, you can just select everything, to be honest. If you want to Control A and right click, render cache color output. Honest, we got so. Then it's just gonna set everything up to render always. And I just realized I didn't properly adjustment clip this, so I'm gonna fix that real quick. Then you want to drag the top 3 up, and you're gonna. Well, I guess you can just duplicate these again and hit Control D, set the time to 1 or the frames to 1, and I'm just gonna Alt and drag. Not all of them. Don't Alt drag all of them over. Do one at a time. Sorry, I don't even know what's going on. I think I'm getting like flustered or something. Just Alt drag. You want one to be at the end of each clip and the beginning of each clip for the first frame. Now, that's just gonna be our setup here, but we're gonna get into shakes first. A lot of the times you just want to do your Pancrop first, but we're just gonna start with shakes because I find them easier to start with. So I already have a plugin for it. I'll put it in description as well, but this is what you're gonna need. You're gonna need Sapphire for it, and this is technically what it is if you want to set up your own shake. We're gonna be focusing on this area, the X and Y shake area, skipping the Z shake area, and adding the tilt shake. I'll have my settings on my macro, and it's gonna show you guys the name of each one, and you guys can just match it up to those settings. But for the sake of this, I'm just gonna use the macro because I do it for my own ease. But if you wanna look at the settings or screenshot it or whatever, then this is the basic settings I have. So for the first frame, you're gonna keyframe. You're gonna go 24 frames forward or to the end of the clip, depending on if it's shorter or not, and set to 0. Go to the first frame and set the amplitude to match whatever kind of clip it is. So this is gonna be more impactful since it's longer. So I'm gonna set it to 2. I'm gonna set the X amp up a little bit and the Y amplitude up a little bit because, like I said, I want it to be more impactful. Set the tilt random amp up a little bit as well and turn up the tilt phase. Now I'm gonna reseed this. Probably something like, I like it to try and make this part be above this area rather than this part be below this area. This right here should be fine. You can go into spline, open up the amplitude, and depending on the longer, like how long it is, if it's longer you want it to be sharper, if it's shorter you want it to be less sharp. So I'm going to drag it over like this. Probably down a little bit as well. We're just going to look at it real quick. It doesn't have enough shake, like it doesn't shake enough. Like I think the amplitude is fine, like how strong the shake is. I just don't think it shakes enough. So we're gonna save this. And then Pancrop will save that because that looks kind of bad. I think the tilt amplitude needs to be down as well. Maybe the tilt frequency needs to be down. Tilt amp does. Okay, that's whatever. We're gonna move on to the next clip. This clip is shorter and doesn't have as much need for impact. So I'm gonna set the amplitude to around 1.5. That should be fine. Not for this. Turn this down to 0. Set this one to 1.5. And pay attention to how the tilt shake is at the end. I'm going to turn up the tilt shake a little bit. Turn down the phase. These can go up a little bit. I almost always turn these up. I don't think I did the settings right when I first did it. And then you can adjust these random frequencies as well. Like I'm probably going to turn this down a little bit. But I always try and make sure that the Y is slightly higher than the X. But we're going to change the amp. Bring it down like this. Bring it over like this. Should be fine. And then I'm just going to seed it a little bit more. This should be fine. I think that's okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this value, or copy this clip, or whatever node. I don't know what I'm on. And since it's the same length, it's fine. But if it wasn't, then you could Control A, press this button right here, and move it like this. It's going to keep the graph the same, like the same way, but it's going to make it longer or shorter. But for this, we can just leave it at 11, or leave it the same. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to reseed it so that it faces the opposite like way, so that you can tell it's two different clips. And actually, I don't think the amplitude's high enough. Honestly, we can just set it to 2 like the other one. And we can just see how that looks. I don't think the frequency is high enough, so turn up the frequency. If you have a shorter clip, frequency can normally go up. Pancrop's gonna fix that. That's normally why people do Pancrop first and then shakes after, is because shakes look really ugly without Pancrop. But now this is a more impactful one, so we're gonna do the same shake, but we're gonna have the amplitude at 3 for the first frame. Now, like I said, I go to the 24th frame or before for the last frame for it, and I'm gonna turn up the X amp a little bit, turn up the Y amp as well, turn down the frequency of most things, and then I'm going to turn up the amplitude for most things. Now this is a little bit high for me, but it should be okay. We'll see. Now, like I said, I do sharper graphs for longer clips. Frequency isn't high enough now. I'm gonna turn it up. And I'm actually gonna change the seed. No. I want something similar to what we had, just not so high up. This should work. We'll see. I'm honestly just gonna copy the shake I had on this because it looked good. I'll just show you guys the settings. But let's see here. Yeah, so I had this at 2.7, and I had the seed as the same. X amp I turned up, Y amp I turned up, tilt I turned up, frequency, I guess I turned up, I thought I turned it down. This frequency I turned down, the tilt phase I turned up. And like I said, I guess I had the amplitude of 2.7. I think the shake looked a lot better. But we're just gonna use the one that we made just now, because whatever. This doesn't need any shakes, I don't believe, but if you want to add some if you want to add like dissolve shake or something, even though I don't use this, I really don't know how to use this, but I really don't know how to use this, if I'm being honest. So I guess we'll just use valve shake plugin or macro or whatever, and I would just set like the amplitude down to like, you don't even need to do this actually, you can just set to like 0.25 or something, and then turn down the frequency, maybe the amp a little bit more, and yeah, I would turn down the tilt a little bit more too. Frequency can go up again. It feels very like that, so I'm just gonna change the seed. We'll see now. I mean, it is what it is. Like I said, I don't use shakes for that, but it's your choice. Then the last shake that we're gonna have is going to be this right here. Now this is the most impactful clip out of all of them. So set it back to 3 again. Keyframe, 24 frames. I'm gonna go a little bit more like halfway, just because it's such a long clip. I mean, it's 58 frames, so I mean, whatever. Then just turn everything up. I'm gonna do the same kind of settings that I did for the other one, the 2.7 one. And spline, just make it sharp because it's such a long clip. And let's look. So familiar, familiar, familiar. Now I feel like it ends a little bit too quickly, so I'm actually gonna spline full screen and drag this out a little bit more than halfway. And click this, and I'm going to bring this way a little bit more. Let's see how it looks now. Familiar, familiar, familiar. It's whatever. Now let's get in Pancrop. Go into the adjustment layer above it. Hit T on your keyboard, or well, if I showed you the settings already, then hit T. If not, then type in transform. Go to the beginning and end. Now this is gonna be a zoom out. So for the last frame, I'm gonna have it at 1.05. And for the first frame, I'm going to zoom it in probably to about 1.5 should be all right. Turn on motion blur I just double click each one of these bars and then turn on size, Control A and then F, and then drag down and then slightly drag over. Honest, honest. If it looks too linear like that, drag this over more. Drag this like this. Honest, we got honest, we got. It should be fine, I guess. Go to the next adjustment clip. T once again. First frame. We're actually gonna be doing a lot of zoom outs, which is not something you should be doing. You should have at least some zoom ins. But we're gonna be doing 1.3, 1.4 maybe. Motion blur. Spline, turn on transform, and then drag it over like this. We got. I don't think it's enough, to be honest with you. I also think that this is a little bit too sharp. Alright, let's look at this next one. We're gonna do all our Pancrop and then we'll just figure out what's wrong with it. But do the same type of deal here. Size, bring down to the left. Should be fine. And then for the impactful parts, you're going to do a really big one. So let's do like 2.1 motion blur. Same as always, full screen. Drag this down. It's a longer clip, so I'm gonna drag it a little bit more to the left than usual, but in fact it's not tight enough actually, so drag it over like this more. Let's see. We got so familiar. Then for this, what I would do is I would do a transform, set each point to the right amount. This I would set to 1.5, 1.05, because that's where the end of the clip ended. And we're gonna set this to like 1.4 or something. No, we can put it closer to what the other one's gonna be at. 1.5 should be fine, but we'll adjust that later. Just leave it linear as like a graph. Familiar. And then for this is the most impactful part of the edit. So set this to 1.05 again. And we're gonna set this to 2.5 or 3. I'm gonna set to 3. And I'll show why. So because it's such a long clip, we're gonna make the graph really, really sharp. So that's why I put it to 3, is so that it's gonna get sharper. We can do it sharper the higher the value we have. Excuse me. Then just make sure it looks alright. If it wants to render, that'd be great. Alright, now we just watch the whole thing. Honest, we got so familiar. So then we're gonna select this top row, set the duration to like 6. And for these clips being so long, I'm gonna set it halfway. Probably the same with this one. The more impactful parts, at least for this type of song, I want it to be kind of like blurry at the beginning. And you're gonna add a defocus gamma. Actually, let me look at something. I never know what order I put it in. Yeah, defocus, gamma, then brightness. And then BC for brightness, contrast. Keyframe the beginning, turn up the gain a little bit. I'm gonna put it on 5 frames forward. I'm gonna put it back to 1. But for this, I'm gonna set it, and then at the end, like at the very end, I'm gonna have it at 0. But for here, I'm gonna set to like 3.6. And then I know a lot of people set to this right here, but I set to this because I think it looks better. Or I'm just gonna test what I want actually, because I'm not sure right now. Whatever, should be fine. Honest, we got honest, we got. I think that the blur actually lasts a bit too long, so I'm gonna set to 0 right here, because it looks kind of weird with the brightness being so short. But then you're just gonna do the same thing with each of these. Like these ones are shorter, so just leave it at like 2. And then you don't want this to be too bright, so set this just up a little bit. And then I'm just gonna copy this or duplicate it and put it over the other one. So they're basically the same. And then defocus gamma once again. Set it to 0 at the very last frame. And then I'm gonna turn it up a little bit to like 5, I guess. It's so impactful. And like I said, I want it to last longer. Put this about halfway. 1.38 is actually where I want it. But then I'm gonna set this back to 0 at 1. Then we'll see. I forgot to change the lens type. Like this maybe. In fact, I would actually make this longer. I don't know why this looks better than the other one. Like I have the lens type correct on this. I'm not sure. I had this at 3 and this is 0. But, you know, can always replicate everything, I guess. But we're going to put it... This actually doesn't even need it. Then for this, same thing. Defocus gamma. And then key from the beginning. Bring it down at the end. And this one, I'm going to set to like 7. Like this. And then BC. First frame. Middle frame. Gonna turn it up a lot. And then we'll see. Familia. Yeah. So that's for the glows and blurs. I don't know what I have next. I have framers next. So for framers, basically all they are is one frame to kind of help mix the clips together. Like for this one, I did mosaic blur. And I turn up the pixel frequency. Now, you can see it gets blurred in with this. So this one specifically, like mosaic blur, I'll add to the top so that it doesn't get blurred out by this. But for this, I mean, I guess you could do the same thing, and I'll show you why. There's some that you want to have moving in with the transform, so that it's not affected by whatever. So it is affected by blurs and whatnot, but these, I don't know. But you're gonna add a background and set it to white. And you can either leave it like this and let it be the last frame, and it's just, or like the first frame to add more impact, which is what I did on the other part. But you could also do transform, set it to 0.5, and then go to this next one and do the exact opposite. Add background, set it to white, add a transform, plug it in like that, and then set this to 1. And it's gonna make like a that, I guess, which I think looks better than what I had it as. I just had it as this is the full white framer to like blend it, I guess, but I think this looks better. Yeah, I like that a lot better. And then I'm not sure what else I had for framers. I know that I had this right here is a dent. I guess I'll just show like my favorite ones, but I don't really. I'm not gonna go in depth on them, I guess. But strength down a bit, probably like negative 3.1 or 0.31. Then you're gonna add a zoom blur. Once again, I go with stylized, and then just drag it down a little bit, and that's the dent, which creates an impact. And then for the last one, I know I did a or not the quite last one. I did a invert color. I have these checked, leave this unchecked, and then for this I did compositing as darken or darken color. And then that just adds more aspect that just makes it pop. Miniata does a lot. Oh my goodness, I love Miniata. Miniata, I'm your biggest glazer. Please teach me your ways. Teach me After Effects, actually, if you're seeing this. But then for this one, I just did transform, set it to 0. Wrap. This is one of the most popular ones, I guess. Directional blur, centered, and then turn it up like this, and it'll look like it just cuts out, I guess, to the next clip. But that's for framers. You don't need to have a framer on every single clip. I do it for most, just to add more of a transition layer. But yeah. Then we're gonna do our depth map and then light compositing. So you're gonna uncheck all of these. You're gonna find the first frame of each one that you're gonna composite. So we're just gonna do this one right here. Hit I on the keyboard. Go to this next marker and go 1 frame back and hit O. Then you're gonna go to the delivery page and you're gonna go depth. You just name it whatever, I guess. I'm gonna do depth for tutorial, and then make sure that you save it to your depth anything, and then save. Add to render queue, render it out, and then it should only take just a moment, but yeah, I don't even know what this does. What does this even do? Then you're going to open up depth anything again, and you're going to find where you had the clip at. So depth for tutorial is somewhere in here. I just have to find it. Depth for tutorial. Drag it into run, and it will load model. This is why you need to have it in here, is because this won't show up. But then you just press any key to continue, and then, I mean, boom, your thing's done. You just have to find depth underscore depth for tutorial for when you, like mine's the third one. I just find it easier to look that way. Cancel. Don't save, I guess. Right click, import media. Go to your depth anything. Now it's important you have your depth anything on desktop. Not sure why, but it makes you do that. So then Alt I and Alt O on your keyboard to get rid of those. You can just turn all these back on. Now these adjustment clips are for your composites. I actually prefer to just compound clip these and then do it inside the compound clip. But you know, whatever. I'm just gonna do it as the adjustment clip because that's what I did on the other timeline. Drag this in. This is gonna be your depth map for the entire all of this. Now we're just gonna do some like very light work, I guess. I'm gonna show you guys how to do depth but I'm probably not the person to ask for it. So you can add a defocus gamma if you want to blur the back. You're going to plug this into a bitmap, into the yellow arrow, drag this into the blue arrow. You're going to, I like to have these two windows open, set this to luminance, and you can see it gets blurrier the closer that it is. You can just invert the apply mask inverted, and then you can just adjust these settings. Like, I want it to be blurrier in the back, so the more white you have is where it's going to not be blurry. So then I'm just going to turn this back down again because we don't need to have it at 7. You can see it gets blurrier the farther away. Now the depth map didn't pick this up, but it should be fine because you won't notice it later on. But like, I feel like this is too far back, so I'm just do this to make it blurrier closer. Now also you can add deband, and when you add deband, it's going to not make it look so like grainy and like have so many lines. The only problem with that is it soft edges some things, so just be careful with that. Then also you could do like a background, put it in here if you wanted it to be like black in the background, I guess. Like so, and you could just like turn down the alpha so it's just darker. Another thing that you could do with this is, one thing I did recently was you could honestly just put it on top of here, and you could use itself as a mask so that it only shows at one part of it. So I'll set this to luminance. Like you can see, you can do that, and then just apply mask inverted, and then bring this back like so. And then one thing I did, and honestly I don't really remember how I did it, so I'm just gonna copy it. But one thing I did was, oh no, my thing just froze. I'm gonna show you guys here in a second, like what I did, because I don't fully remember. Let's see. Where do I have it? This is that depth map up here, but there should be a mask for it. No, was it on the other clip that I did it? I think it was technically on the other clip. Yeah, because this is the fog. This is this. Oh, I just don't see it yet. Okay. Yeah, it's these right here. So what I did was, actually, hold on, let me copy this one. Sorry, I'm kind of yapping. I'm kind of like all over the place. I'm trying to figure out what exactly I'm trying to show. This is the depth map. I can't speak. This is the bitmap. This is the fog. This right here is what I need. So deband, bitmap, mat control. So I'm going to show you all what I did real quick. So what I did was I have a mat control. Put this into the background of it, the yellow mask. Take your thingy and put it right here. Put it into a deband, and then put that into 2 bitmap nodes. Now one of them is low luminance at the end, and then right here, and then this one's full luminance down to low luminance. I don't think I inverted either of them. I didn't. Okay, so you're gonna want to luminance for both of these, of course. I'm just trying to figure out the step-by-steps I did. Put one of these into a garbage mat, and then put depth flow HOS macro group. I think this was just a merge. I think both of them were just merges. Put this one is the mask. The one that's not connected to the Mac control. I have a weird workspace, so that's my fault. And then this right here, and then this right here. Now that's just the setup. We haven't done any keyframing for it yet. So like for this, we're gonna set this one first keyframe, and I'm just gonna copy the values of these other ones. Like this, it starts out like that, and then the last frame is at 0. So I'm gonna set it to turn it down. It goes what 1.4, 0.49, same thing. Then this one, I'm gonna do 1 at the beginning, and then at the end 0. I think I need to do the same for this one too. Yep. Both of these on the last. Oh, this one needs to be 0.333. See, I did this, but I don't remember doing half of it. This Mac control needs to be on this green arrow. So if we look at it, this is the depth map. Now what it's going to do is it's going to trade to be this entire thing is going to show up rather than just this half. Now I think I inverted the garbage mat so that it would transfer. Yeah, you can see it transfers from front to back. But I need to turn this off so that you can see the back the entire time. But yeah, I need to do that. But I do notice that at the end here, it's like that. I think we can just turn up the luminance. Yeah, because I still want it to show up a little bit like that. So that way it transfers to the back like that, which should be fine. But what I would do is I would spline it, and I'm gonna get rid of these so I can spline it better. But you're gonna take the lows and highs, and you're gonna go A, and I would do it like halfway through in like an S graph, so that you can kind of see the first part for a second. And then I just put this on the square so that I can understand where I started to make this do that. So yeah, right there should be fine. And then you just do that with the other one as well. And I don't know why. Yeah, there we go. And then just do this graph once again. I'm not actually sure if I'm supposed to delete those points. I don't know what I was doing with them, but we're just gonna do this anyway. And we'll look at it real quick. See if it transfers properly. So it doesn't actually transfer properly. I think it's just the way it was rendering out there, but it will do this. So I don't know. I think it's a pretty cool effect, I guess. And you can do it with like really any color, because you can color correct this to change the hue. Like if I don't want it like this, I could change the hue to something like this. Really just mess with the settings and the graphing on that because that looks terrible. But lastly, I'll just show fog real quick. Download a fog PNG thing and use this as a bitmap for it. Now it's going to look inverted, but what you're going to do is you're going to apply mask inverted anyway. And what I would do is I would add an X glow. Now it's going to get really bright for a second. turn up the threshold, turn down the iterations, turn up the size by a lot, turn up the fall off by a lot too, and turn down the gain by a lot. And really just do that until you get the settings right. But the point of this is to have it kind of just glow. But yeah, that's kind of the point of that. But then you can also see that it's like this weird cutout. It's because this is way too big of a, I don't know if I can show. It's a different, yeah, it's 3840 by 2160. So what you could do is instead of doing it in here, put this in mask option here, keep apply mask inverted, and what you can do is just transform it to be smaller. It's gonna add more detail to the fog, which I think looks nicer. And then I would just adjust the settings so that this isn't just cut out like that. But you also don't want it to band up like that, so you band. I don't know how to explain things like this very well, but hopefully this is making sense. This is really bad fog, but you could figure it out, I'm sure. In fact, I would actually flip this, because you can see it's kind of like making the gun look like it has a weird mask. And I'll just move it over like that probably. It'll still be fine here. And you might need to soft edge this a little bit. No, you can't soft edge it at all. Okay, well anyways, that's that. I don't know how to explain these very well. And then lastly, I'm just gonna try to camera track. So you're gonna take a matte control and put a polygon in this matte control, garbage matte, and you're gonna mask out everything that's not the HUD or the gun. So everything like here, you're gonna mask out, and then it can be a really rough mask too, by the way. Then you're just gonna invert the mask, and we can look and see if there's any part of the gun that comes into frame. There's not. In fact, there's some room right here that you could put, and some room right here, but we're not gonna worry about that too much. Then you're gonna put a camera tracker. And one thing I do just anyways is CC, turn up the saturation a little bit, and then I just add a little bit of contrast. And then you can add a sharpen node too. I don't normally do the sharpen part because of like this weird area right here. I just don't do it. Then anyways, you're gonna take your camera tracker, turn on preview, turn down the detection threshold by like a lot. I'd say down to here. Go to auto track. As long as, make sure it has a whole bunch of points on every frame. Then go to solve. Now, one thing that I really messed up when I first started learning how to camera track was I would turn these like as low as possible right away. Start somewhere like here, and then solve. And then look and see the average solve error. It's at 1. You want it to be closer to 0.2. So then after that, we can turn it down, delete that, and then solve once again. And you can see as it goes lower, like the average solve error goes down. But if you go too low, the average solve error will say it's down, but the camera track will turn out terribly. So just really make small adjustments. Like I'm gonna go down one more time and then be done. Yeah, now we can export it. And this is where you look to see if it succeeded properly, because sometimes it won't. But we can test this out by adding a P emitter and a P render, putting it into the merge, get rid of this ground plane, add a merge node and camera tracker into there. Now we just group this up because we don't actually need it anymore. but this is where you would turn on the region as sphere, turn up the region. I normally turn up to like 200 is normally what I found to be good. And then point, like blob maybe, size control a little bit up. Now turn this on, zoom out of course, because you want to be able to see it. And what you're going to do is you can see the P emitter looks weird. Actually, I'm going to turn up the size to 5. But you don't actually need to have it at 200. You can turn it down like this and then turn down the size. But either way, you're going to be moving the region back by a lot. Like you want to make sure it's at the very least, by these. And then I don't know how to get rid of that. I forgot. There's a way in P-Render. I think it's the way it renders out image full frames. I thought it was one of these. Peej ENT on YouTube says how to do it. I don't really remember how to. Let's see if we can find it. Focal length settings. Only in render, no. Perspective, no. Like I said, Peej knows how to do it. If I figure it out by the end of this video, then I'll let you guys know. Also, this can save your PC a lot of like render time. But then you're just gonna position it and you're gonna see if it tracks properly to the wall. As you can see, it doesn't really do that. And you would need to re-render the camera tracker, but just do it till it works for the most part. Like I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna turn up the size and turn down these sizes. And we can see if it, like this one kind of sticks there, but you can see at the very end, it like jumps this way with us, which we don't want. We actually want it to go the opposite way. But if you turn on like velocity and whatnot, turn up velocity and velocity variance, and then change like the angle variance and angle Z variance, it could fix a lot of the issues so it doesn't look so bad. Like, so you can't tell the difference as much. And then just add like an X glow over it and change the threshold up, glow size up, fall off, turn this down to like 8 or 10, and then turn down the gain a bit. Like, and that should be okay. But really it's your choice. Anyways, I think that's all I'm gonna do for depth compositing stuff, because I really suck at it anyway. But let's move on to CC. So I do CC pretty randomly. I don't, like, sometimes I'll do it after, sometimes I'll do it before. But if you do it before, make sure it's before you do any compositing. And turn this, go to here, and I use Magic Bullet film. This one right here. And actually I have that on the wrong clip. So we're gonna put film on here. I'm gonna go to the middle here so I can see it. Now, what you're gonna do is you're gonna do color temperature to adjust what kind of temp you want, the tint to whatever tint you want. Like, I think this is okay. Exposure, I'm gonna turn up a little bit because I feel like it got really dark. Contrast, I only put slightly up. Saturation, I turned down a bit. And then skin tone, I don't really mess with. Vintage modern, you can mess with. I think that they both look kind of bad. Grain, I turn down because I'll do that separately. Turn a little bit vignette on, and then I turn down the strength a little bit. You can see the difference. I think it looks a lot better. But then you're gonna add a new node, add serial. And this one's gonna be for your contrasting. And you're going to bring this very slightly down, this very slightly up, very slightly up as well, at least for this. The magic bullet film looks does already do most of it for me, so I don't really have to worry about it. And then I add a new node, add serial, turn up the detail. I don't normally go all the way up. In fact, I'm going to turn this down probably about 50. Should be fine. Because you can see if you add too much detail, it starts to get random bits. But it should be fine. Then I add another node, add grain, film grain, and then you can just add texture or like whatever it is that you want. I'll normally turn up the opacity all the way to 1, and you can change the type it is, like 16 millimeter. Change to this. This is, I think, a decent one. Then add another node, and this is optional. In fact, I don't do it often, but it's some kind of glow that I don't remember. BCC plus film glow. No, fast film glow. It adds this. Turn up the threshold. Turn up the desaturation. Turn up the radius. And then turn down the glow intensity. And that just gets the like points like this. And then add another node. And this last one, just add whatever you want, I guess. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a blur. And I'll show why. So it's going to go boxy like that. Take this, turn this on, extend it to the edges, and then soft edge it a little bit more and invert it like that. And then you can just turn down the strength on it completely. And then it should look like this when you're done. You can add a vignette as well. What I would do is I would just add node. I would do the same thing. Vignette. Or you could, I don't know, can you do background? I don't know if you can do a solid color. But just you can add just normal vignette to it. Increase the size. I say like increase the anamorphism, so it's just more of like an oval, and then turn up the softness a bit, and then I increase the size just a little bit more, and this is what it should turn out to. I think it's a really big difference. I think it looks a lot better. A lot of people will add grain after this, like during the second render, but that's your choice completely. But I'm just gonna leave it like this. Anyways, then what you're gonna do is you're gonna render it out. Render tutorial 1, and then I'll just put it in like downloads or something like that. Or if I like it without the SFX and the quality, then I'll leave it like that too. But you can just let it render, and then after that, just do whatever. We got so familiar. Okay, so now that our render is done, what you're going to do is you're going to create a new timeline. Final render is normally what I'll put, or whatever it is. Now, like I said, I do the increase in quality inside Davinci, but it's your choice completely. Leave it at 24 FPS or whatever FPS you're using. Now you're gonna take the render that you just did and drag it in.
Honest,
Should be right here.
we got so familiar. Honest, we got so familiar.
Now, for SFX, I really suck at them, so probably don't listen to me. But you're gonna take whatever like gun sounds you have. I'm gonna use just the basic ones. I'm not gonna try and find the SFX for this, but I use the J Rosie pack because I don't like to find SFX. So valorant SFX, gun sounds, sidearm, sheriff, and it just imports the shooting sounds. So I'm gonna choose this, but I do the same in and out thing, and then just take this, find the shots, which should be right here,
We got so.
and you can just duplicate it, I guess. Find the next shot right here, alt drag up, make sure it's on the peak of it again, because that's normally the like main part of the sound, and then same thing. It should look like this now.
We got so familiar. We got so.
Yeah, I'm just gonna do it like this. And now it should be like this.
We got so familiar.
And then you can just go into Fairlight, and I'm just gonna do it on audio 3 because it has both, like 2 different ones. And you can just turn on reverb. Now you just reduce this, reduce the dry wet noise, and then close out. And then EQ. If I want it to be deeper, I'll bring it like this. If I want it to be higher pitched, I'll bring it like this. But we can just test it out. I don't really know what would sound good right here.
We got so. We got.
I don't know. I don't really mess with this EQ, to be honest. So I'm gonna drag it over this way a little bit. And copy. Oh my goodness. Copy, paste, paste. You can listen to it now.
We got so familiar. We got so familiar.
I don't really mess with it, if I'm being honest. But I also don't like the regular basic sheriff kill sound, like shooting sounds. But then you can also take whatever like SFX you have. I have a for all edits thing. I have different like sound effects. Like you could go with ice sound effects. Like I have an ion. Here we go. I have ion sheriff. But let me see if I can find it. There's one that I do want to use for this. Like this. And no, it's not quick enough, actually. Fantasy sounds, that's where it's at. So for fantasy sounds, I'm just gonna go like, you want one with impacts. So I'm gonna choose this one right here for absolutely no reason, but drag it in like this and find the impact part. This should be fine.
Familiar. 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 Familiar.
I can even hear the ion sheriff. I can even hear the sheriff. So just turn it up, I guess. This might burst my eardrums. This can turn down. This could honestly get more reverb. And the SFX timing is not correctly displayed. It's honestly whatever. But then I would cut it right here. And then just bring this all the way down. But yeah, there's not really. Then you would just do that with like everything. For like more distortion, like an underwater sound effect, you'd bring this up and then this down, and then you would turn on distortion, and that's gonna make like an underwater sound effect. Bring down the dry wet level, and that'll be whatever. But let's see if I can reset this. But yeah, there's just different things you could do. I don't have like an in-depth for it, I guess, because I'm not exactly good at SFX, so just go for it. But then you would render it out again as the final render, and it will automatically render as 3840 by 2160 Ultra HD. And yeah, now I'm gonna go fix the missing spots in this tutorial. So yeah.